from your heart, and you put that out there on a canvas, and someone else relates to that color. You know, hey, I've been there. I know. I've felt that. You know, and it doesn't have to be some ethereal.
Right.
It can just be right down to I've been in that place. I relate to that feeling, and this is where I was, and this is where I am now.
Yeah.
So and it kind of brings people together.
It does.
In that kind of sense.
Yeah, and it transcends words.
Yeah, it transcends words. Yeah.
You know, what comes to my mind is an experience I had on the mission field with Youth with a Mission, and trying to communicate with all these children that had just seen their friends go out in a tidal wave in La Paz, and you go, and I knew a little Spanish, but I went, and all of a sudden scripture came to my mind about where Jesus got a message across, because he went with where they were at, and he drew a picture, and I went, okay. So I sat down, and in my broken Spanish, I communicated with the children there, and they got to see, you mean we can do something creative here? And there were tears in my eyes, because when I came back the next day and they were doing it, and it just, that just came to me, sitting here, how art can transcend the language barrier and allow them to come play. I mean, that's what you say all the time, come play in the studio. And I think it's fantastic that we're not age related, as far as art, that a child can express worship. And some of the drawings that we've seen in the gallery are precious, and it's like, it's all inclusive, and that's what I find art to be.
Right.
It isn't that way everywhere, though. I mean, art's a very, in the world scenario, it's a very exclusive, we push people out, and we start doing that when they're in grade school, which is what you were talking about earlier. And from my experience when we do a drawing class, I would say probably 50% of the people have that story. They quit art when they were in grade school. A lot of times people just don't grasp the value of that process. I mean, and you were communicating at a level where they could understand, but communication happens, visual communication happens hugely in our society, especially these days. I think we're in the middle of something that's really, really huge. I like where your heart is specifically for allowing everyone to play, because in the art world, when we send something out, it gets rejected, and people kind of go, this is, and it takes you a long time to get on the inside. We have something that's unique here that allows people to play at any age, like you were talking about, any age, any level, and it's absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely, I think, the most important thing about VineArts is that there isn't discrimination one way or the other. There is that balance that I was talking about earlier, that you've got these folks that are super talented and get into this very deep level, and they're right next to the folks that did something on their computer and wanted to submit it. I mean, it's valuing all of that, and I think a lot of that just comes from VineArts as a ministry building a trust with the congregation as a whole and with the leadership, that we do come under the the authority of the church. We are identified with Christ, and I think a lot of times the question being what holds artists back in the church. I think a lot of times that's the issue, is trust. There's an issue of trust between those that are less artistically inclined in one way or another and those that are, because I mean, it's just because, again, we think so differently. But I think here really VineArts has modeled that element of trust, that we really are all on the same page. We're not trying to sneak anything in, we're not trying to trick anybody. We're just encouraging people to express themselves, and I think it's something that the church as a whole could benefit from.